Hey everybody, I'd like to explain a few things about databases before we begin our Access chapters. So here are some basics of database. First, let's take a quick look at a YouTube. So in class we've talked about how a warehouse might keep track of the items that they keep in a warehouse, and Amazon's probably the largest warehouse on the planet that I can think of. And these little bots have been introduced, and so I noticed this video online just a short while ago. But this kind of shows the whole purpose of the bots and how they are completing our orders and getting stuff in the right containers and then eventually in boxes to ship out. It's quite a massive operation, as I think you could probably imagine, since you probably shop with Amazon and you realize that you can buy just about everything from them. So the point I'm trying to make here with this video is that all of these items in this inventory have to be, the information about each one of them has to be recorded somewhere so that a computer and a robot can figure out what they're looking for and which items to put in which boxes, and then, as you see now, where to ship it. So here's what I hear every semester when I start the Access units. My students say, I hate Access. I don't even want to learn it. It's not even useful. Well, I'm getting tired of hearing that same thing, because really you all interact with a database every day. And as a future employee in any type of business, you will be interacting with a database. And the more you understand about a database, the better off you're going to be. Aside from that, if you like the information that you learn when we go through the database assignments, it might pique your interest into an area like this, and I want you to realize that you can make some excellent money as a database analyst or a database manager, or even just an entry person makes a decent wage. So I saw, I looked for a few ads today, and I just did a quick search on Monster, but this was for a database administrator, which that's a senior position probably in a company. This one happens to be in Oklahoma, $80,000 to $100,000 a year. My friend has a friend who is a database administrator. She's the chief database administrator for a hospital conglomeration in, I think, Minnesota, and she makes around $150,000 a year. So there is money to be made in this field. I know you can't probably read what's on the screen, but just listing essential functions and skills. But what I wanted to point out was the things that you might recognize, or that you will recognize after we talk about them a little bit more, like Oracle and SQL. Here's another one, data analyst, and this is being able to look at key performance indicators for a marketing organization, needing to be able to run SQL, which is a query builder, and the other item I have circled here is proficient in Excel. And one last one, a data analyst. This was for a job in Kansas. What caught my eye was the first line. Do you have significant Microsoft Access experience and enjoy complex analytical work? Are you frustrated with the demands of corporate life and seek a more flexibility in your work life? Do you like digging into data puzzles? Anyway, this is a telecommuting job, so you wouldn't even you wouldn't even have to move. The location of the company is in Kansas, but they want someone with some experience, with a bachelor's degree, and who would be able to do data analyst work from their home. So looks like they need to have SQL, Access, Excel, and the thing I circled here at the bottom was they need to be comfortable writing queries and macros. So programs associated with databases, as you saw in some of those ads, of course, Access. Access is the desktop user program for databases. However, all database design starts the same way, and so understanding Access helps you understand the other databases. So Oracle is another big deal in the world of database management. SQL is a language that you use to write queries to pull information out of databases. And ETL, gosh, I can't remember what that stands for. I'm sorry. I noticed it a few times when I was looking through the jobs. I know that L stands for loading, and it's some kind of code that you write to pull information and extract it out. Then Active Directory is the database behind networking and networking. So that's part of database management as well. So what is a database? Many definitions, but just in general, it's a collection of data that is stored for a specific purpose, organized in a manner that allows for retrieval. Okay, so here we have just an example, a fake example, of course, because it has phone numbers in here, but if you were putting together the list of all the people in your cast for a production, you would need to have this information so that you could pull it up. A lot of times you're going to have to call them. You're going to have to have their names for the program. You're going to have to email them. You probably want to organize them by part. So if you're going to rehearse a certain part in Guys and Dolls, and you want to have all the people from the chorus, or you want to have all of the people that have dresses for costumes because the costume designer is going to be here that day, you could organize your information so that you could pull that information up and then quickly have the numbers to call them or the emails to send them. So it's a collection of information that you put together because you're going to need to pull it back out, or some of it back out. So some examples you might be accustomed to using every day as your contact list on your phone is a database. If you use a search engine like Google or Bing or Yahoo, you really are using database tools. When you put the information in the search line, that question, those words that you put in there are an example of a query, and then those words are matched with the data that Google, Bing, Yahoo, whoever, keeps on all of their web pages so that you can find the web pages that you are looking for. So for Access 2013, there are some terms that we need to know, and they're listed here, and we're going to talk about the guts of a database here in a second. But just quickly, the file is all of the information that you collect in a database. might be more than one group of information. Records, fields, tables, we're going to cover it completely here in a minute. A query is when you're pulling information out of the database in order to like make a phone call list for the guys and dolls, for example. A form is an object that you use to input information into a database. Instead of having to write the information in a skinny little line like you did in Excel, you can set up a nice form that's easier to fill out, so your data is simpler to input. And then reporting, of course, reporting is one of the big reasons that we have databases, so that we can report information back out. We'll look at reports in the example that we're going to do for our homework. Two more things. The key field, when you are putting together data, when you're looking at a record of information, let's think about your student information that the college holds. Okay, there could definitely be people that have the same name that come to school here, so we can't use their name as a key field. A key field cannot be repeated by anyone else. So you guys are all assigned a student ID number, and that ID number is unique to you, and it's connected to your information. So using your student ID number is preferable to your Social Security number on campus, of course. And then there's a term called join, and that's when we connect some of our tables together in a database so that we don't have to repeat any information. And you'll see how that works shortly. Okay, so when we look at a record, we are talking about all of the information about one item in our collection. Okay, so all the information about you as a student, your name, your phone number, your address, your major, your advisor. I can go on and on, okay? And then of course your key field is your student ID number. So let's think of a collection, and I was sitting here in my office wondering what could be a collection that Lisa Lee would have, so I thought, how about my record collection? So in my office I happen to have a Peter Frampton album, the big black circular discs. And so I was taking a look at it, and of course the artist's name is Peter Frampton. The name of the album is Frampton Comes Alive. The recording company is A&M Records. It was created in 1976. Happens to be a double album with 4 sides. Yeah, it's in fair condition, and some of my favorite songs are Show Me the Way and Do You Feel Like We Do. So all of this information is what we would call one record. Okay, so if Lisa had, say, 1,500 vinyl records, it would be a good idea to organize them. So looking at my awesome, fast little database here, I put together just a table showing you the information that would maybe go into a database. All right, so at the top I have headings at the top of every column so I organize the information. Right, moving on, the names at the top, the column headings, are called field names. All right, and you'll notice that inside each field is a certain kind of information. Mostly it's text, but there is year in the middle column. So if you're looking at just one field, the artist field, then we're just looking at the names of the musical artists. Now, if you're taking one line of information about one artist album, then that is a record. So in this particular table that we're looking at, there are 3 records. Okay, I have 1,497 to add to get my entire collection on there. All of this information together is called a table. It would have a name, Lisa's Albums. And what we've talked about but we don't have here is a key field. So I was trying to think of something that would be a unique identifier for my record albums. And you know what? Back in the 1970s, this wasn't really thought of. So we would probably need to assign an identifying number, perhaps, to each record, and maybe we would have like a sleeve or a labeling system that we would put on each album as we purchased them or retrieved them from the basement or the attic or wherever, as we were starting to record them into our database. Probably some kind of a numbering system, and that would be our key field, just like your student ID number. So that would complete the vinyl record database, or table, I should say. And then what if my friend was cleaning out her attic and asked if I would like to have her collection of 45s. If you guys don't know what 45s are, they're single records. Well, actually they have 2 songs on them, but they're littler black discs. They spin at a different speed, which is what the 45 stands for, and so they spin a little bit slower, and they contain the hit song on one side, and then the flip, it was always called the flip side, had a different song on it. So back when I was a kid, if you wanted to buy a single, you didn't go to Apple or iTunes and buy a single. You would go to the store and buy a single little record that was called a 45. Imagine the fun parties, right? So adding the 2 of those together, the 45s and the larger albums, the vinyls, and then maybe I could go on with my 8-track collection and my cassette tapes. All of those together would be the database. Individual tables inside them would be like the albums, the vinyl albums, the 45s, the 8-tracks, the cassette tapes. All right, then the other thing I'd like to show you, if I can figure it out here, I have opened up here the student, let's see, what's it called? Advising database that you guys are going to create in Chapter 1 of your textbook. And I just want to show you what Access looks like. When you open up Access, nothing's really going on. It's not like a creative place where you make a beautiful poster or a beautiful spreadsheet and a chart. It's think of it as data and lists of information. So nothing really is happening on the screen, but I do want to point out the term objects over here on the left. So objects in the world of Access, in this case, a table is an object, a query is an object, forms and reports. So I just want to show you these. So let's start with, it's almost registration time, so this is good timing. We'll look at the list of faculty advisors for our problem. All right, so we have a lot of information about the advisors, but notice what we're starting with, a faculty ID number. Okay, so that is a unique identifying number, because truly we could have faculty with the same name, they could have the same rank, they could be married so they live in the same address, and so forth. All right, so let's look across this. All the information down to email. Okay, so matching or looking at the next table, and I want you to notice that I just opened this table object, and if I wanted to close it, I would come here to this X and close it. Okay, let's look at the student table. The student table also begins with a unique identifier, then their names, addresses, postal code, emails, same idea. But then check it out, they're connected to a faculty advisor. Okay, and there's also a field here for amount owed, like tuition or whatnot, fees or something like that. I don't remember what the amount owed was for. So connecting it to the faculty advisor makes it so that you can connect 2 different tables and make a query. So now let's close that table and let's look at this query. So this query happens to be just giving us some of the information from the table. Let me reopen the table. It had all of the information, phone number, address, blah, 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 blah. But the query was just paring it down, so we were just looking at some of the information. And that's what a query is meant to do, is pare down the information to show just what you need. Okay, so maybe you wanted to see I'll keep going on here. Sorry. I talked about a form being used to input information, and this kind of a setup is easier to type into rather than just a skinny little line. So people tend to like this. And you can also tab your way through the cells or the fields to get your information in. Okay, and then one more object to look at here is the report on the faculty advisors. Okay, so this is listing just a report from which campus they're on. It's organized by, it looks like it's organized by last name, and it just has their emails on it. Okay, so again, we've got three objects open here, a report and a form and the student table. They each have their own little icon, so you can kind of tell what object you're looking at. But remember, to close them, you come into this little X at the right-hand side of the header to close each one of those. All right, so I do want to show you one more thing, and that's the guts or the backbone of the database. So I'm going to go into the student database, and I'm going to go to Design View so that you can see the guts, the background information that we put into Access before we even start entering information. So this is the background, the student ID, last name, first name, address, those are field names. But what we can do down here below is we can put some restrictions on what kind of data can go into that field, or how long that field can be. We can even do some validation rules so that people can't type anything in there incorrectly. For example, the state field needs to be two columns or two spaces wide. Sorry about that. So as I was saying, the state field in this case has been reduced to only 2 spaces wide. So if someone tried to type in the whole name of the state, they would get a message saying they needed to make that a two-character state abbreviation. Okay, so this again is the structure behind your database. You set this up before you even start typing in information so that you kind of have a plan for what type of information you're going to be collecting and what kind of data goes in each one of the fields. All right, so we'll go back to Datasheet View, which is what we normally look at. And I do want to point out that Datasheet View kind of looks like Excel, and it does get a little confusing for people. But Access can handle large lists of information and has more abilities to manipulate that information than Excel does. So that's one way to set up yourself at the beginning, saying, you know, not sure if I should use Access or Excel. If you're talking 2,500 records of information, you're talking Access, not Excel. Unless there's some major power and mathematics going on, you're just keeping track of records, you probably want Access. And do know that Access can calculate. So it's not that you're out of luck with the math part. You can definitely use Access to calculate, especially you would do that in your reports. Okay, I think that's all I wanted to introduce you to. What you're going to do next is move into your Access homework problem, and we'll be starting with a My IT Lab assignment.